Hello, and welcome back to another mega build for my Necromunda table. This time I will build a ruined factory in enormous dimensions. In the Warhammer universe, a factory is called a Manufactorum because they speak Latin, in Gothic language of course. And this build will come in 5 different pieces. So I take another 2 squares of my standard 26.5 centimeters by 26.5 centimeters and 2 centimeter high XPS foam tiles on which the basic structure will go. One tile will be an L shape and the other one a simple square tower. Both are intended to have 4 floors, including the almost bottom floor. Over the past months I bought some Nerf guns and water guns for their sci-fi bits and pieces. So I took them all apart and found myself with lots of interesting shapes to work with. I set a few aside for this project and started with the basic structure. I bought these ridges in the craft store and, if I'm honest, I have no idea what they are for. My guesses are either for cable management or for drywalls. If you happen to know what they are, please tell me in the comments. Anyway, I found that they have an excellent shape for iron pillars to go into the corners of my buildings. For test fitting purposes I held everything together with tape. The whole thing will need some stability, since the plastic ridges in the corners are quite flimsy. So on the first tile I added this wooden dowel for support. To necromundify the dowel I cladded it in some plastic tubing. Using a cardboard tube I added support to the second tile. A quick tip for gluing stuff to tubes or tubes onto stuff: fill something into the tubes to give it more bulk. Here you see me doing it with newspaper. Later, on smaller tubes, I also use paper towels. This gives the glue something to hold on. With all the iron edges done, this is the basic structure of the 2 tiles for now. On to the 2 next pieces of the puzzle. On top of the basic structure there will go towers or smokestacks that will be modular, meaning that they can be detached and used as terrain alone. These are made of cardboard tubes of different sizes, old packaging, empty tape rolls, empty aluminium foil rolls, and so on. They were wrapped in packaging tape to avoid the typical spiral pattern of these tubes. On one of the stacks a revolver piece of a Nerf gun was added. It was very important to me that different sizes of tubes were arranged irregularly so that it won't be just a straight smokestack. Also, the top height was limited by my cabinet for storage. This is the basic structure with the towers on top. Magnets for the towers are planned to give them some more stability. I messed up the polarity though, and yeah, on the end product the towers are not interchangeable anymore, which is, yeah, kind of a sadness, but hey. From now on we will follow one simple rule. When in doubt, add another layer of details. Further details can hide previous mistakes, and so I started adding large-scale details like this piping. I'm not worried about any gaps or exposed glue at this point, since it will be hidden under another layer of details. For minis to be able to stand on the scenery, I had to create walkways. These were a cardboard sandwich with drywall tape in the middle. The round shapes were a bit awkward to work with at the beginning, but I managed to get the hang of it. Support beams add a more stable look to the build, and ladders make the thing playable. Another layer of detail for the plain surfaces of the cardboard tubes are the iron plates bolted to the surface. These are built from EVA foam and corrugated cardboard. With these I covered a lot of empty and boring space to fill some detail in. Quick tip: use superglue and wood glue to have more stability but still quick bonding between the pieces. Into the corrugated cardboard you can easily score in some damage. This becomes a worthwhile step after you paint it. Now to the masochist part of the build. For yet another layer of detail, I wanted to add the rivets or bolts to the iron plates. These are small gems for fingernail decoration. I guess, at least. Every plate got 8 rivets, which was an absolute pain. So many of them flew away when picking them up. I will totally still find some in the coming years. At least I can say that it is worth the effort. The rivets really sell the bolted metal plate look, at the very least after dry brushing. For the first time in my life I worked with styrene rods, and I thought you could make some cool railings with the 2 different sizes I bought. I drilled 2 holes into the bigger one and threaded through the smaller one. these poles can still be pushed around to find the final place when I add them to the terrain. This is the current state of the stacks that go on top of the main buildings. Not finished yet, but with some minis for scale. To add further detail, I again took my new styrene rods and used a trick I saw before but used for the first time. Heat them up over a flame and bend them in the direction you want. Let them cool a bit and they will be rock solid again. I tried simulating pipe work this way. After even more detailing, this is the current state. I am sure that I wanted to show you different details with my tool, but after speeding up the footage, that is very impractical. I added some plastic bits like pipe endings and terminals, some drinking straws, quite a lot of electrical wires. I also cladded the walkways to make them more bulky, and I filled some of the worst gaps with sculpting putty. By this time I also added the magnets to bond top and bottom together more stable, so I don't have to worry while gaming. Some more detail will be added before painting and even after painting, but more to that later. On to detailing the main buildings. The square tower will house different forms of generators that are interconnected with big tubes. The bottom floor generator was assembled using a bubblegum package, some bottle lids and different other plastic junk greeblies. The middle floor generator is made of wheels. Yes, I later decide that it will go in the middle floor. And these big wheels are from an unknown building block toy box, which I bought in the charity shop. The same one I used to build my watchtowers. These stack together nicely and build a column with an interesting shape that reminded me of plasma coils. So, big plasma coil generator it is. I primed the stack white and added some covering so that it looks like just some parts of the generator are exposed. I put some bottle lids on either end and cut out something out of XPS foam that the generator can rest on. And in it goes. The building block toy box also came with smaller wheels. I did exactly the same with the smaller ones. I call it the small plasma coil generator that goes on the topmost floor. I also added a small bit at the bottom, and after fitting it into the top floor, I crafted braces for it using some wooden skewer bits pushed into drinking straws. Like all the consumer plastic pieces, I also sanded down the following tubes. This gives the plastic a better grip for glue and paint. These push-to-fit plastic tubes come from a big box of different tubes. Perfect for a Necromundan build. Here you see the paper towel trick to add something for the glue to hold on. Later on I will also use EVA foam to strengthen up some bonds. EVA foam bonds very well to all sorts of things using super glue. Using different tubes, I connected the different floors. What does this machinery do? I have no idea. I guess it has something to do with power, electricity and the sorts. Maybe the Adeptus Mechanicus know. But most likely not. I obviously wanted to show you something again, so here it is. Whatever it was that I wanted to show you. The L-shaped building gets one big piece of water gun as a centerpiece. It looks like a tank, because it obviously was one before, and will be connected with the same push-to-fit tubes as before. This connects the tank to the main silo made out of the cardboard tube. Since the two parts of the L are not connected to each other, I built a walkway on top of the tubes out of different wooden skewers and popsicle sticks. This rickety bridge connects the two main parts of the building. On the bottom floor I also cut out some space for stairs, which was much harder than anticipated. We continue to detail with crates and barrels. In a factory there will sure be loads of crates and barrels of all sorts of contents. Here I also threaded old electrical wires of different sizes through the whole building. To prepare for the painting step, I covered fragile materials like the XPS foam with gesso to make it sturdier. This is especially important since I am gonna use rattle cans for painting. I don't want those to melt the base of my build. My ground floor is just plain boring XPS foam at the moment, so I added different grain sizes of sand to my gesso and added the resulting texture paste on the floor. I focused on the joints where the buildings meet the ground to hide any seams or gaps. But I also deliberately used it on the whole build to hide mistakes, gaps or glue. It's just another layer of detail. This finer pre-bought texture paste is yet another layer of detail. All surfaces that are still just plain get a coat of texture paste, and this will add some, who would have thought, texture to these bland surfaces. After dry brushing, you can see the difference this makes. The rougher pre-bought texture paste is used to simulate extreme rust and filth accumulating in different areas. This was done especially in cracks and crevices where grime and dirt would probably naturally accumulate. Building phase done. Phew! I guess this was easily 60 hours of work. And you haven't even seen the last of the 5 pieces that go in this build, but here it is so far. See if you can spot all the 6 Necromunda gangers in the frame. This bridge is the final part of the build. It's just an aluminium bridge, similar to the plastic ones on the corner of the buildings, with a cardboard and netting sandwich in between. After priming, it looks like this. This is still my favorite step of crafting, when it all comes together. I followed this with a brown undertone, and for the painting technique that I wanted to try, I added white again, but only a light dusting from above. All downward facing surfaces are still brown. Inspired by a video from Miscast, I wanted to try a new painting technique, so I brought out the oil paints. And I brought out all the colors, even those that I would never have used to base coat Necromunda terrain before. I thinned it only a little and started coating everything with it. I switched between colors to have a rich variety of tones throughout the whole piece. The nice thing about oil colors is that they blend together so well. At first I was very nervous and stuck to more or less traditional colors. But the longer I took, the bolder I got. In the end, I used every single color and smashed it onto the piece. When in doubt, just blend it together more with the surrounding colors. Maybe this will produce an interesting gray or an unordinary brown. But even the bold colors alone give it a very interesting hue. I made sure to stipple before leaving an area to avoid brush strokes and giving yet another layer of texture. The downsides of using oils are that it smells not too nice and that it takes quite a long time to dry. I think I let it dry over the course of a whole week before I continued to paint. And even then I wasn't sure it was fully cured. I then added some colorful details. Some metal plates got painted, some corrugated sheets, the railings, the ladders, some pipes and wires, all the crates and the barrels, and so on and so forth. I used like 3 different technical paints to add some effects like rust and grime. And then came the dry brushing phase. I honestly don't like dry brushing too much, but the result is so worth it. A light tan color over everything ties the whole piece together and highlights all the small little details I spend so much time on. After that, it was time to dull everything down again and further tie everything into a unified whole. I prepared 3 different washes and splashed them over everything. And this was it. This is the end result of months of crafting and painting. I still added some more things after washing. I painted all the glowing effects on the generators, added some more rust and moss effect paints, did a very brutish attempt on painting the tank as a clear tank with a liquid in it, and I added quite a lot of printed hazard stripes and posters. Oh, and I added some smoke on the tops of the stacks using cotton. I am so happy with the end result. It's a joy to look at and very fun to play on. It got tested already in a game. But I will now shut it and let you enjoy those glamour shots. Subscribe if you will and like if you enjoyed. Tell me your opinion in the comments and most important, enjoy your crafting. Until next time.